Party people in the place to be. What's going on? It's me. If it's Sunday, it must be time for yet another long overdue movie review. Now, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. This one here, a solid, looks like 90 minutes or so. Okay, I could dig that. Once again, the acting. What can you say about the acting? They found the proper kids for it. Turned into young adults here. Amazing. Can't say too much more about it than that. The special effects, once again, they stayed within that pocket of what they could do, and they made it look good for the most part. There were maybe one or two of them that weren't as good as they could have been during that last stretch, but you can understand what they were going for with it. It wasn't absolutely egregious there. In terms of the story, we got a finale. Was it the finale that I was hoping for? The result was right, obviously, right? But it did carry a little bit more of the elements from the last movie into this one, and I was hoping for more of a big, it was an epic feel. I will give it that. It was an epic feel in terms of the climax as concerned. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's hard to have the full movie as the climax. They did a little bit more building, and we'll get to that as we get to that. Everything ended the way it should have ended, I think, for the most part. There were a couple of extenuating circumstances, and we'll get into that when we get into that. And that'll be right now as we get into the spoiler section. I'm gonna take my sip before we dip into spoiler territory here, because we obviously have a lot to cover. Warwick Davis, Willow, to those of us born in the 80s, sells out the Harry Potter kids, but quick. They're sitting there mourning the death of Dobby, the free elf bitch. The free elf. And they're trying to get answers and stuff like that, and Warwick Davis is like, "Oh, I'll take you in Helena Bottom's vault. You know, you just got to promise me something. I want that Gryffindor sword." So he takes him into the vault, and he says, "I promise I'd take you there. I didn't promise I'd get you out." Oh my. So they go into the vault, for the most part, because it's super fucking hot in here. We're going to have to, listen, you're just going to have to deal with the AC on this one. It got hella hot, hella quick. You're just going to have to deal with it when it actually turns on. There we go. Jesus, it got, super quick. Like, that wasn't even a couple of minutes. It got hot. I turned it off just before I turned on the camera. It got super hot, super quick. So you're just going to have to deal with the AC in the background. I don't know what to tell you. Warwick Davis sells them out. But they managed to escape. They managed to escape on the dragon that's guarding all the vaults down there. They barely managed to get in, but they managed to escape. Eventually, Voldemort breaks into Harry's mind and discovers their plan and ends up killing Warwick Davis. That's what you get for selling out our boy Harry. The crew sneaks back into Hogwarts as Snape as the headmaster. Maggie banishes Snape, and with the rest of the Dark Order behind him. Voldemort invades students' minds like a loudspeaker and demands Harry Potter. He wants to see Harry Potter, and he demands that they give up Harry Potter. If you give him up, you'll get a reward. If you give him up, you won't die. If you just give him up, just give up your friend. Just give up your friend. That's all I'm demanding. I'm the leader of this world. Just give him up. That's all I'm demanding you do. That's all I'm demanding you do. Could that also be another metaphor that the Harry Potterites don't seem to quite understand when it comes to real life situations that just happen to be occurring? I wonder. I wonder if these super smart Harry Potter geniuses should pick up on shit like that when it actually crosses their real life daily occurrences. I wonder. Anyway, Voldemort's invades students' mind. He demands them, but they don't give him up. One of the students is like, "Why don't we give him up?" And nobody gives him up. They all huddle behind Harry because they're all behind our boy HP. So eventually, the adults put a shield around Hogwarts while Harry looks for the last Horcrux, which is supposed to be in the Ravenclaws. The leader of the Ravenclaw, the later Ravenclaw, whatever her name, Ravenclaws tiara or whatever they called it, her crown is somewhere. That's supposed to be the last one, but it's not the last one. But they think it's the last one, so they go hunting for it. Ron and the Dark Forces then descend upon around Hogwarts. Ron and Hermione destroy the Horcrux. They get the Horcrux. So Harry escapes this scenario, right? So he's looking for it. They put a shield around it. Harry is looking. What happened to the? Okay, so he's looking for it. He finds it in the room of need that they had in the other movie. And here comes Malfoy Jr. with his crew, and they're like, we got you now, Harry. And there's Hermione and Ron, and then Ron chases him off because they try to do something to Hermione, and he's like, "That's my girlfriend, you humpties." And she gets a smile on her face. We're still shipping apparently, and he chases them off, and then one of them gets a fire spell in his wand and sets the whole room ablaze. He ends up dying, so the whole room starts going ablaze. And Hermione and Ron and HP, they try to escape. They get some brooms. They start to escape. They see Malfoy Jr. and his friend there, and they're like, we can't leave them here. And they actually save Malfoy Jr. from the burning wreckage that's around him because HP's a good guy. He's a good guy, damn it. He's going to save whoever's around him. So eventually they get out of that scenario. You have Ron and Hermione with the tiara there, and they destroy it with the stupid thing. They kill it with the stupid thing, with the tooth of whatever they do to destroy it. And all this water comes in and it's about to envelop them all, but it kind of just drenches them, right? And they look at each other and they just go ahead and kiss. It only took them 7.5 movies to finally get to that point. But geez, we're finally here. Bloody hell with these will they, won't they's. So they destroy the Horcrux, and immediately, I can't speak. And immediately Snog, Voldemort feels that it breaks, and he himself is at the border. Him and the Dark Force have descended upon the border of Hogwarts that has been shielded this whole time. And he's like, "Fuck this!" And he gets the rage. He gets the rage spell and destroys the shield around them. And now they start descending upon the town. Longbottom barely outruns the horde of the woodland guys, the wood gang that came upon them at the last movie. It's like, why are they siding with, like, they just seem like they should just be rapscallions. I know maybe Voldemort recruited them as just the gang, just to do some henchman type stuff, but it's like, what is even their purpose at this point? What is even their purpose? So luckily at this movie, they just all end up falling off the bridge. Harry breaks the last Horcrux. There's another. Apparently, there's another Horcrux that Ron and Hermione destroyed. Then Harry has another Horcrux. He destroys it and sets it ablaze. Like, he tosses the other Horcrux into the blaze. With what Horcrux did they have? Ron and Hermione had one of the Horcruxes, and then Harry had another Horcrux. Horcruxes are destroyed all over the place. Is the whole point? Is what I'm trying to say. Everybody's destroying Horcruxes. Snape gets got by Voldemort. Snape gets got because Snape believes that the reason why the Elder Wand doesn't quite respond to him is because of who had it last. And Dumbledore had it last, and since Snape killed Dumbledore, then he's got to kill Snape in order for him to be the one to do the wand. But the logistics of that apparently don't end up working out. Turns out Harry needed to be the one because Malfoy Jr. disarmed him of the wand, and he disarmed Malfoy Jr., so now Harry's the one that needs to control the wand. We don't officially spell that out until the end of the movie. Anyway, Snape thinks that, and he kills Voldemort thinks that, and he kills Snape. Snape allows Harry to get his tears, go into Dumbledore's the palace there, and dip into his memories. And we confirm that Snape loved Harry's mama. To the point that I'm like, is Snape supposed to be Harry's daddy? Is Snape Harry's father in this? But apparently not. I had to look it up. Apparently he's not the father. He just loved her very, very much, despite the fact that apparently Harry's father was a dick. Apparently Harry's father was the one that came in and was a complete ass and bulldozed his way through to that wizarding pussy, which is just metaphors for how relationships with men and women go all over the place, just all over the place. It's the asshole that gets the girl at the end, and Harry Potter just distributed that here. Oh, he's a nice guy, he's got glasses. yeah, okay, he was an asshole once in his life, and that's how he came across her Wizarding World, and in her Wizarding World, I assume, which is how we got Harry. So yeah, poor Snape. He had a little chip on his shoulder, but we also revealed that it was all a double cross. He and Dumbledore went into collusion ahead of time about how Snape, and I figure this when the double cross of Dumbledore happened initially. I'm like, there's something else here. There's something else here. I feel like there's a double cross coming, and I was saying I think Snape is going to turn face. Snape didn't end up turning face. Snape ended up getting killed in the process, but he apparently was technically always a face. He was just kind of an infiltrator. So he didn't turn face. Neither did the Malfoys. The Malfoys didn't turn face. They just turned tail. They just dipped out. So when all this comes crashing down, Harry finds this out, and in the memories, it turns out he has to sacrifice himself because a part of Voldemort ended up in his body when Voldemort killed his parents. This one part of his soul ended up in Harry. So Harry is the last Horcrux. Him and the snake. There are more last Horcruxes. So him and the snake that walks around with Voldemort are the last two Horcruxes, and they have to be destroyed. So Harry sacrifices himself to Voldemort, right? He's like, I'm go ahead. He goes to the forest, sacrifices him, spell, boom. Harry is up in purgatory talking to Voldemort, and we see a little piece of talking to Dumbledore. We see a little bit of Voldemort that's laying in a corner somewhere that looks like an aborted fetus, honestly. And that's the last piece of Voldemort that was in the thing or whatever. That's a little piece of Voldemort that came in or die that Harry needed to detach from himself. And I suppose he used the resurrection stone to get back, which is what he had in the flying thing that Dumbledore gave him from Quidditch. Dumbledore gave him earlier on. So that happened. All the while, Hogwarts is getting just decimated and destroyed. Hogwarts is getting just decimated and destroyed. And before Harry goes to sacrifice himself, he sees the dead. And among the dead, this is where the movie fucks up. This is where the movie fucks up. Among the dead, not only is Ron's ex-girlfriend among the dead. Earlier on, we see her catch hers, or at least about to get her soul sucked out, or a meal for a werewolf. Not only did we have to lose Dobby in all this, we lost Fred. We lost Fred Weasley, children. We lost Fred Weasley. We lost our. Listen, I grew attached to those damn Weasley twins. I grew more attached to those Weasley twins than I did to Harry, if I'm being perfectly honest. I grew more attached to the Weasley twins than I did to Harry. And we lose one of them. Somebody's got to die. Somebody's got to go down for this. Somebody has to die. Now, unfortunately, we don't even see it. We don't even see what happens. But we lost him. We lost him. He's surrounded by the rest of the Weasleys, and they're crying over the dead body. Some bitch. Now somebody's got to go. It was for Dobby originally. Now it's for Fred. Somebody's got to go. Somebody got to go. So Harry sacrificed himself, talks to Dumbledore, yada yada yada. Hagrid is held captive, and he brings the body back to Hogwarts. And Voldemort is like, "You can all bow down to me now." And Malfoy Jr. So before that happens, so as Voldemort is casting away Harry, and Harry goes down, somebody goes check on him. It's Malfoy's mom, and she looks down at Harry, and she asks, "Is Draco okay?" And Harry is still alive. He comes back. He's still alive, and he's like, "Uh-huh." He like just nods a little bit, and so she turns and says, "Harry Potter is dead." And so Hagrid carries Harry Potter back to Hogwarts as he's in chains, surrounded by the rest of the Dark Order, and Voldemort's like, "You can all bow down to me now." And Longbottom, of all people, steps up to the plate, and he's getting laughed at and everything, and he's like, "Fuck this, Harry Potter forever!" And then Harry kicks out at that moment, and boom, the chase is on. And then here comes Longbottom all over the place. They're fighting all over the place. Magic's happening all over the place. Dark people are getting disbanded and dispatched all over the place. The students are fighting back. The Malfoys bail. They all bail. They don't. That's not a face turn. That's not a face turn. They're Weasley, not Weasley, but they're weak. They're cowards. They don't fight at all. They instead of joining the good fight, they decide I'm out of here. That's not a face turn. That's not a face turn. That ain't a face turn. Anyway, that ain't a face turn. So at the end of the movie, when we see Malfoy Jr. again, it's like, listen, those smiles, those are just like, listen, we're not gonna start any beef anymore on this. But you know what you did. You know what you did for 7.5 movies. You know what you did. Anyway, that's not a face turn. So the battle is happening. Pew 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 pew. Magic all over the place. Hermione and Ron corner the snake, and the snake starts chasing them throughout the castles. And then Longbottom gets tossed aside. He wakes up, looks around, finds the sword of Gryffindor, and as Hermione and Ron are cuddled together, this is the last thing we're gonna see is this snake coming at us. Here comes Longbottom to save the day and swipe off with the head of the snake. That's the end of the Horcruxes. It's all over. It is Ron, it is Voldemort, and it is Harry right now. They are in the courtyard. They are battling wand to wand, back and forth, the beams, back and forth, beams, back and forth, beams, back and forth. Then that happens. And then all of a sudden, Voldemort starts crumbling away. So really, once again, it wasn't Harry that did it. It was really Longbottom, if we're being perfectly honest. Because, yeah, Harry was here, but Longbottom ended the fucking last Horcrux, and Voldemort just didn't have anything left. He wasn't vanquished. It wasn't Harry Potter casting him aside. He just kind of dried off into the air. It was Longbottom. Longbottom was the hero of this shit. Who would have thought this? The first movie. Who'd have thought Longbottom would be the savior? What? It's Harry Potter and the ... Not Longbottom and the ... We should have been following him for 7 movies. 8 movies. It's fucking Longbottom. Knock me over with a feather. What is going on there? Anyway, yeah. So fast forward to 19 years, and it's Harry sending his kids, along with Hermione's kids, along with Malfoy's kids, off to Hogwarts again, and they all live happily ever after. After Harry destroys the major wand, he casts it aside. We get the reveal that he was the one that ended up controlling it the whole time, that had the power for it the whole time. Because as that happens, Harry casts the wand aside, and it lands in his hand, and then chop off the head, and Voldemort is dead. So that's the last movie. They tied up all the loose ends. There were a bunch of loose ends to tie up, which is part of the issue with this movie. There were so many loose ends to tie up. So many. And it's easy to get lost in all the loose ends getting tied up. It's because it's so many of them. It's probably, if we're being perfectly honest, maybe too many loose ends to try to tie up. But they knew it was the last movie. They knew this was their destination, and they tried to get everything under order. And and along the way, Mrs. Weasley killing off Helena Bottom. As Helena Bottom was going after her daughter, Harry's love interest. Not my daughter, you bitch! And pow! Mrs. Weasley with the kill on Helena Bottom, showing that mama bear tendency. Look at that. Anyway, a lot of loose ends to tie up. A lot of loose ends to tie up here. We only got 100 and it's not 90 minutes. It's 130 minutes, so 2 hours. Well, which is relatively short for these movies. They're clocking at 2.5, 3 hours. This one came in at a little over 2. A lot of loose ends to tie up. Maybe a few too many for my taste, if we're being perfectly honest. However, we all tied them up, and that's fine. Out of $15, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 is worth, because we got the ending that we were supposed to get, right? Although, and this is the other part. I thought it was going to be more definitive on our boy doing the final deed. I thought that was going to be more definitive, and for me, it wasn't. For me, it was our boy once again getting help at the end. Once again, not actually doing the actual end job himself. Little disappointing, slightly disappointing. You know, I'm thinking he's going to be the one, his wand, man to man, off with his head, and it's not quite that. We don't quite get that, and that's a little odd to me. Just off rip, that's a little odd to me. I'm looking at this. I literally just turned it off, came here to do this, not really thinking about it or digesting it. I'm sure there are think pieces all over the internet about it, but I'm looking at this and I'm like, wait, this isn't the definitive ending that I really wanted for this. I wanted the definitive long live the king, fuck you, smite you down, this is it. Yeah, I wanted that Megazord final power sword swing, chop off with the head, the fucking in the heart, the God, give it to me. That's what I wanted. And that's not what we got. That is not what we got. So out of $15, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Lucy, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, out of $15 is, I'll give it, the ending's important. The ending is important. But this isn't the worst Harry Potter movie. And I think that I have the worst Harry Potter movie, like what, 1250, 1275? This isn't the worst one. So I'll settle on 13, but it's a low 13. It's a low 13 only because of the ending. It's a low 13 because of the ending. Now that I really think about it, it's a low 13 because of that ending. I wanted that final, especially after we lost a Weasley. I wanted that, and Dobby, we lost Dobby and Weasley to not get the definitive. This was Austin Rock WrestleMania. Austin Rock at WrestleMania. And at the end, Austin doesn't win with a stunner. At the end, Austin doesn't kick to the boot, stunner, 1, 2, 3 in the middle. That's not what happens. He gets the 1, 2, 3, but it wasn't off a stunner. Yeah. Hey. I don't. You know what? I don't. $12.95. $12.95 out of $50. I don't want. I don't want to give it the full 13. I don't want to give it the full 13 because that was the ending that we should have got, and that's not exactly the ending that we got. So they don't get the rating that they probably should have got. Then this was their last chance to get 15 out of 15, and they did everything else relatively well. They did, like I said, everything else relatively well. The effects were good. The expectations that we have for the effects were good. We wrapped up the loose ends. The action up to that point really was pretty good. It did feel like it was 2 hours. It actually felt like it was 2.5 hours was part of it. And like I mentioned, so some of the dreariness of war that we got in the last movie that I really liked, we didn't need as much of that in this one, but we still got some of it in this one. I think, again, felt like they were kind of padding for time or whatever. And yet at the same time, we weren't able really to mourn the loss of some of the characters that we had earlier on in the movie either. So yeah, 12. It's $12.95. $12.95. It doesn't get the full 13 for me on this one. I didn't like the ending, and it just didn't sit as well as even the previous one, because the previous one set Deathly Hallows Part 1 set me up for the expectation of, yeah, baby, this is it. This is it. This is the go home show. You heard me. This is the go home show. I want this one. I want to see what happens. And then we get here, we see what happens, and it's not as good as the expectations are. Unfortunately, like there are some things like they did some stuff very well, but some of the key components and including but not limited to the ending, not as impactful to me as they could have / should have been, especially with the events leading up to the end. Didn't quite get there for me. Didn't quite get there for me, dog. So yeah, that's about right for me. Party people, I need you to tell me how correct I am down there in the comment section. I'm correct. You know I'm correct. Hallows Part 2, not the best one. Not the best one. We got the ending. but not the best ending, not the best movie, not the worst. But especially after Deathly Hallows 1 and what they set you up for, Deathly Hallows 2, it delivers in what they do, but how they do it, it doesn't always equate all the way through, unfortunately. Anyway, party people, I need you to tell me what you think down there in the comment section. Like, share. You can subscribe too, but like and share. I have a podcast with my homeboy Trey every Thursday. It's called the How Do We Even Get Here podcast. All the links are down there in the description. You can find it here on YouTube and 13 other audio platforms. Pick which one is your fave. We are on all of them motherfuckers. And in the meantime, in between time, for Dobby, Fred, and the rest, cheers.
I'm a nice guy, I'm a nice place, with a nice smile on my nice face. Turn your back and I'm making sure my night's straight. And when you're out of town, I'll be making sure your wife's straight.